All
All
right.
right.
And this is attempt number 20.
6, 7. So
Oh,
the fun thing to note for the listeners, viewers, is that we recorded like most of the podcast, but it wasn't recording on my side. So
so unless it's interesting to listen to me for 20 minutes straight, then we still should upload it, but I guess we should start all over again.
it looks like that, yeah.
Well, well,
All right. Well, welcome, insiders, to another podcast. And Johan, I want to talk about a complaint that we got from some viewers.
okay.
And we have to take the complaint seriously to keep the viewers engaged and going on. And the complaint is that we complain too much.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, we are a startup, right?
We are a startup, yeah. But maybe we should also share some to sort of bring it in balance. We should maybe also share some of the good news or sandwich. Like this is the classic management technique. You sandwich the bad news between good news. So we start with something great, then something bad, and then we end on a great note.
Okay, that means we need two highlights then. Okay, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, let's start with highlight number one. And I would say that highlight number one is that
We're still alive.
yeah, we're still alive. And then another highlight is that the development team and actually the entire team, development testing, is working really well. Um, we've had no HR struggles at the company. So I guess on one hand it's a little bit of luck because you can always get unlucky with hires, but we've also been lucky with the developers that the Cloud Plus Plus, a company that helps you to have a remote development team. And they really helped us in getting great developers and pre-selecting those developers, because you still do the final selection yourself. But that really helped us in getting good people on board.
Yeah, and it's funny because I talk with many entrepreneurs and founders, and typically managing the team and also building the team, developing the team, managing the team, all those things are typically the biggest struggle. And you've worked with many teams as well in the past. So how's it been for you to work in and how does this compare to your previous teams? And by the way, those previous team members may listen.
They may be listening. Yes, I have to be careful. I have to admit that I've always had less trouble with developers, and I guess what really helps that I'm an engineer myself, so it's a lot easier to quickly pick out the good ones and the ones that you like to work with, the ones that share your values. I have to admit that on the sales and marketing side, I've been a lot less lucky. And this is mainly due to my own lack of being able to be better in those things. And on the sales side, I improved after I started getting sales trained myself, so that kind of went away. But on the marketing side, I just have a complete lack of marketing genes in my body, so I'm not able to do good hires. And we can safely conclude I cannot do good hires in marketing. So I'm glad that you're on board as a marketeer.
Yeah, that's probably on me then. But maybe back to the developer part of it. So I think you have an interesting theory on the mindset of a developer. I think there are two types of developers, as you explained probably in one of the previous episodes. But maybe that's something that we can discuss a little bit.
Yeah, and so on the developer side, you have the can-do developers and the can't-do developers. And the can-do will always try to find for a way to get there and be creative with that, and maybe come up with a different solution, right? So for example, this week we were implementing a move folder function, and it turns out that the underlying component does not have great drag and drop support. And also, when you have a long tree, it can be difficult then figure it out. So what the team came up with as a can-do approach, they said, so why don't we come up with this maybe slightly different UX pattern to address that and what we came up with at the end was by showing an additional pop-up. Actually, it makes it a lot easier now to move stuff around, especially if you have a long folder tree going on. So instead of saying we can't build this because, if you literally look at the ticket, it says support drag and drop in the folder. So a developer with a can-do attitude would have just said, can't do that. But developers with a can-do attitude who work here at Playbookify, they will dive in and then figure out how to come up with a workaround, come up with a different UX pattern, discuss it within the team, and then fix it. And it really gives also a lot more energy if you have developers with a can-do attitude that really want to meet your goals, get the product out on time. The
Yeah.
downside maybe is that they sometimes work too hard, so you have to try to find the balance in that as well. You don't want your developers to be working on the weekend or at night. I would say that especially counts for developers. If you're a startup, we tend to work 80 hours a week. It's unhealthy and it's not going to improve your results. I know this from personal experience. At my first years of Survey, I used to work 80 hours a week, and I should have worked 40 hours. I was close to getting a burnout. I spent a lot of time doing things that were not necessary.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. And once you give yourself less time, then you automatically kind of start focusing on the things that really make an impact and move the needle instead of just being active. I'm talking mainly to myself because I have to learn this, and I still, yeah, absolutely. And maybe one more question on the on the mentality and the mindset. So how or what's your advice to other founders or people listening on how to assess the mentality during the recruitment process?
So what I like to do is when I'm interviewing a developer is to give them an example task on where I should be expecting a can do or a can do answer to a question. So maybe I'll give them a task that doesn't make sense, for example, and then you would hope that they would say, this doesn't make a lot of sense. How about we do this? That's how you can spot them. But if somebody just goes in and tries to just blindly build what you asked, then this may not be the right fit for the team.
Yeah, well,
And they may be better in a corporate environment where this kind of but this fits a bit better. I mean, I would say in general, I would never want to hire those kind of developers. But in a corporate environment, you may be easier to get away with it.
yeah. Well, I think we've got the first highlight covered, so that means that we are now it's allowed to complain now.
We can now sandwich the complaint in.
So, what would be the main struggle for you at this point?
I think our biggest struggle is still on finding a product market fit, and I think we're making steps in that area. But it also, we're past the first half of the year already. We're in the second half now. We're not halfway our targets, so that begins to cause a little bit of stress. We tried a few different markets. We think we now have a new one that we are going after, but we still have to find the proof. That's it's still giving me a bit of sleepless nights, to be honest. How about you?
Yeah, the same here. Although I have to say that the past few weeks, mainly I would say, yeah, roughly 4 to 6 weeks or so, we start seeing more signs of product market fit is probably too early to say, but maybe problem solution fit. Because we did quite a lot of workshops over the past few months, And the main insights were that, well, at least I would say half of the companies that attend the workshop have a similar profile, and they are less progressive and matured in technology adoption. So initially we thought, let's focus on fast growing companies, because then the problems we address, those problems resonate best with them. And although that's still the case, because they want to speed up their onboarding process, they want to improve the way they share internal knowledge, but they typically have 10 other more urgent problems. So it's really hard for them to adopt the product and to get started with it. And once a company is like in more stable waters, if that makes sense, then the urgency of all the other problems is a bit less, and then they have more headspace, more room, more time to work on long-term stuff, which is essentially most of the things you do in Playbookify, is to stabilize your company and to be to make your operations more predictable, which isn't urgent, but it's important, not necessarily urgent. So, and I think that's at least one of the things that kind of give me the confidence that we are moving in the right direction. But yeah, it's still hard to kind of focus on one segment only, because there are still a lot of opportunities in other markets, and it's sometimes very tempting to go after all the opportunities. So keeping the perfect balance between focus and experiments, that's probably for me personally the hardest part.
Right, staying focused. Yeah. Okay, and on that, we're past our target of 12 minutes already, and we have to end with a compliment. So with something positive. So my thinking is, let's talk about testing. I think we've made two great steps there. First of all, we found a great guy, Joseph, who does most of the functional testing work for us. I think we were very lucky with that hire. And the second goal we achieved there is that we delegated a task, which is always a challenge at startups, is how are you going to delegate a task, and that is actually why Playbookify exists. It's document your knowledge. So we document it in a playbook, how and what should be tested, and then we found Joseph to do the actual testing, and he runs this playbook now every time, where you can find the knowledge, what should be tested. There's also a checklist.
And he also improves the playbook, because every week, basically, we launch new features, or we add new functionalities to the product, and that means that the playbook is also kind of moving to a new level every week or sprint, at least. So that's really helpful.
Cool. So we started with some good news. We talked about tough stuff. We ended on some good news. And more good news is I promised to record a product update video this week. I haven't done one in, I think, 3 months. So there's going to be a lot.
Yeah,
There's
it's
going to
been
be
a
a
while.
lot in that
Yeah.
product update, because I love to cover everything we built since the previous video. So with that, we look forward to any kind of questions or comments you guys have on inside playbookify.io.
Yeah, and hopefully this was more uplifting than the previous
Yeah,
videos. We did everything we could.
we tried hard. Yeah, thanks, insiders.
Thanks.